Okay, got it. Okay, we got 1 minute and we'll start.
Board meeting, anything important? Oh, that's right, you were in the conference tonight. Yeah, okay. I can do more listening than talking.
Okay, 6 o'clock. Ready? Welcome to the Land Use Board of Monday, March 7th, 2022. We will start by saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wait a minute, you're breaking up.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by postings on the bulletin board in the entrance hall of the Beach Haven Municipal Building and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times and the Asbury Park Press. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision for each individual application. Decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call, Mrs. Eddles?
Here.
Mr. Herensky?
Hello. Here.
Mrs. Lenhard?
Here,
Mr. Muha? Mr. Pisano?
Here.
Mr. Stevens?
Here.
Mrs. Baxter? Mr. Meadow? Mrs. Baumiller?
Here.
Mr. Jenna? Mr. Tinquist?
Here.
Mr. Balbo?
Here.
And Mr. Lafredo? All right.
5, 6, 7, 8.
And Gary just
We have
joined
8
now too.
people. Did somebody join in late? I thought,
Mr. Lafredo just popped on.
oh, he did? Okay.
Mhm.
And what about Nicole? I thought she was a yes.
Yeah, you'll be figuring it out.
She's just late. And Ken's not here. Tom's not there?
Nope, I did not get Tom on.
Okay, all right. All right, the new business, did everybody get a chance to read the minutes from February the 7th? So could I have a motion to approve?
I so move, Penny.
Second,
Second.
who's that?
Right, right.
Oh, Joe, thanks.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes approved.
Yeah.
The next, the approval of the bills. You got a chance to look at the bills. If you have no problem with that, could I have a motion to approve the bills?
Motion to approve.
Second, Penny.
All right, Mrs. Eddles?
Yes.
Mr. Herensky?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenhard?
Yes,
Mr. Pisano?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Meadow? I just saw him pop on.
Yes. Yes.
Mrs.
Tom's here.
Baumiller?
Yes.
Mr. Tinquist?
Yes.
Mr. Balbo?
Yes.
And Mr. Lafredo?
Yes.
And I'm here too.
You're here? Okay, good, good, good,
Right.
good.
I'll get you in there. Mrs. Baxter?
Yes.
Bills approved.
Good. All right, we had a 3-person review. The dock and clam bar has been approved to operate at 506 Center Street, which was previously the Harvey Cedars Clam Bar. The hours of operation will be from noon to 9 p.m. And we wish them much luck and success. Moving right along, we have the resolution 2021-21 Williams 325 Jeffries Avenue. Everybody get a chance to read that? Any corrections? I think they've been done. Can I have a motion to approve?
All right, let me just run down the voting members real quick. We have Mr. Stevens, Mr. Herensky, Mrs. Lenhard, Mr. Tinquist, and Mr. Lafredo.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve this resolution?
tonight. And it's had most of the day.
I motion to approve. It got a second?
Second.
Or wait a minute.
Thanks, Joe.
It's 50th.
Did Joe vote on it?
Yes, he did.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Joe did not vote on it. He cannot
All
second.
right, we need somebody that voted on this resolution.
right, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Oh,
Oh, right.
Usually it's the.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Herenski,
Yes.
But it's.
Mrs. Leonard,
yes,
Whatever we get now.
Mr. Tinquist,
Yes.
Mr. LaFredo.
Yes.
Resolution approved.
good. Moving along to resolution 2021-22, that was 420 Second Avenue, Second Street. That was the swimming pool in the front yard, backyard deal, right? And the fence.
That's a fun day.
Do I have a motion? Read the people that voted on that.
Okay, so here today we have Mrs. Baxter, Mr. Medall, Mrs. Ballmiller, Mrs. Eddles, Mr. Herenski, Mrs. Lenhard, and Mr. Jenna.
They have.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
I so move. Penny?
Second, Tom.
Second, Scott.
Mrs. Baxter,
Yes.
Mr. Medall,
Yes.
Mrs. Ballmiller,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Oh,
Yes.
Mr. Herenski,
Yes.
7 years ago, the gymnastics. studio-
Mrs. Lenhard,
Yes,
and Mr. Jenna.
Yeah, that was like 2 years. ago.
okay. Somebody has their TV on in the background. Would you please turn it down or move to another room because it's coming through in our meeting?
Are we gonna try to ski most days with him?
Who is that? Is everybody else muted? Okay. All right,
I don't think
Did Mr.
Mr.
Jenna?
Jenna is here. I don't. Is
He's
Jerry?
not.
Oh, he's
Okay.
not. Okay, sorry.
he's not here.
Resolution approved.
All right, resolution 2022-01, Queen City Marina, 525 Second Street. They wanted to put food in the ship store. Can I have a motion? You want to read who voted on it?
Sure, we have Mrs. Baxter, Mr. Medall, Mrs. Ballmiller, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Persano, Mrs. Eddles, Mr. Herenski, and Mrs. Lenhard.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly, Jim.
There was a revision done, because now there was some consideration of the lot being sold.
What lot?
Well, the one lot where we're doing this approval on is being sold, but the parking is on the adjacent lot.
Well, Jim, it's not definitely being sold. There's apparently a rumor going around, and there was some concern by one of our board members that what if it is sold? So they asked that I put that in there. And frankly, they'd have to come back for a new site plan anyway, if things
Right.
change.
If it,
But
okay,
I
if,
did put, on page 8, I did put an extra paragraph in there that the applicant currently owns lot 4 as well as lots 1, 2, and 3, which are contiguous to lot 4. In the event the applicant sells lot 4 to a third party and the sale does not include lots 1, 2, and 3, the applicant will be required to return to the land use board and address the issue of waivers and easements on the applicant's contiguous property for parking and any other condition of approval. Keep in mind, they're going to be going to CAFRA and they're going to be coming back to us anyway. So we're going to be dealing with this a year or two. It depends on how long CAFRA takes, could be 3 years. We'll be seeing this property again.
Yeah,
okay. And because I know in the beginning, the last time you had mentioned why these lots weren't being consolidated. And I guess this is in here, but how's that getting, what prevents them from selling it with just that stipulation in there? Is that recorded somehow?
No, it's not, Jim. It's a site plan application. They could sell it right now the way it is, but they do have to come back to us. Don't forget that. That's the main thing I'm trying to stress is CAFRA, and they're going to come back to us as a land use board after CAFRA. So we have jurisdiction over this property for the time, God knows how long, but we have jurisdiction over this property for a while. So I don't think it's an issue myself. I understand there's a rumor going around for whatever that's worth, but
So
frankly,
is the concern here that they subdivide this entire marina property and just sell off the ship store portion? Is
Well,
that,
it's four separate lots, but it's one big property owned by the same people. It's still broken down as four separate lots. And Frank had mentioned, well, why don't they consolidate? And frankly, I thought they did when they came with us, before us with Morrison's a couple of years ago. I thought they consolidated, but apparently there's still four taxable lots. But all the lots have so much to do with each other, for all intents and purposes, it's one operation on four lots. So again, the issue is if they have parking off-site parking on the lot next to it that they own, how do we enforce that ability to have the parking? They have to come back before us. Whatever they do with this property, with the site plan, they have to come back before the board.
Okay, because some of the tables are off the lot too, correct?
Yeah, yes,
So you have
correct.
tables off the lot, so it's a little, I wouldn't say
So
sloppy.
if they
but-
make any changes, they have to come before us.
I
correct, Rob?
understand that, but it's a question of them selling it. And then the new owner says, well, geez, I didn't know that. And, all of a sudden,
Well,
Well,
that's
they
the
could
owner
put-
beware.
they could pull something like the place across the street from the Chegg did when they're trying to get right of way for their garbage cans from the electric company. They could say,
Electric
well, we have an
company.
agreement in place to let us park cars in their extra spaces.
I don't know that anybody ever saw that agreement from the electric company either, but
Oh, no,
anyway,
I
let's move
agree.
on. Otherwise we get
But-
distracted.
Something along those lines could be in play here if they elected to do that.
Right.
Just be aware of it.
And I was confused about, usually we would see the site plan with the loading area identified too, because, this new operation will have a lot of trucks coming in and out and just, usually you have to identify where that loading zone is and have it at least on a plan labeled and identified, I thought.
Different kinds of trucks than what they're currently seeing.
Well, no, like it needs a loading zone on the site.
I thought that was discussed and they were coming in on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, yes. But again, if it subdivides,
Well, then if it subdivides, they got to come before us and then that's their problem to find a loading zone. As I understand it. Is that wrong, Bob?
No, that's absolutely correct.
Okay. We can't fix everybody's problems before we know what they're going to do with their property. We can only deal with what comes before us and the site plan that we're given.
Right.
Okay. Any more questions before we have a motion? Okay, can I have a motion on this resolution? 2022-01, 525 Second Avenue, Marina?
So move, Jamie.
Thank you.
I'll
Second,
second. Cole.
thanks, Nicole.
Mrs. Baxter,
Yes.
Mr. Meadow,
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes,
Mr. Prisano,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mr. Ferensky,
Yes.
and Mrs. Lenhard.
Yes.
Resolution approved.
Good. All right, moving along to the first application this evening, 2022-03 J&R LLC, 400 Leeward Avenue. The applicant is currently constructing a new single-family dwelling on the property. The applicant is seeking a waiver from the requirement to install a sidewalk along Leeward Avenue and West Avenue frontages of the property. Who's representing them?
Good evening, James Raven on behalf of the applicant, J&R LLC.
Let me just swear Frank in real quick and get that out of the way for the night.
Okay,
Frank, I don't see you on our list here. Hold on.
he's there.
Waving at you.
I'm sure you are, Frank. There you are, there you are. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
And just for the record, your name.
Frank Little,
Thank you.
Board's engineer and planner.
Thank you. Mr. Raven, I pre-marked the exhibits. Would you mind if I just go over those real quickly with you?
Sure, please.
Sure. Your development application is dated February 11th this year, A1. The building plot plan, James Brodowski, dated July 23rd, 20, is A2. The letter and proof of service, everything's in order. We'll just mark that collectively A3. And then Frank did two letters. B1 will be the completeness letter, February 22nd this year. B2 will be the letter regarding the application and the waiver request, same date. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the subject property is located at 400 Leeward Ave. It's at the corner of West Avenue and Leeward Avenue at the entrance sort of to Webster Lagoon there. And currently the applicant is constructing a new single-family dwelling, and the applicant is seeking sidewalk waivers along the Leeward Avenue frontage of the property and the West Avenue frontage of the property. We're not seeking a waiver for the curbing. So the applicant's agreeing to put curbing in on both of those streets, but is seeking a waiver for the sidewalks. There are no sidewalks on that area of West Avenue. And I believe the whole stretch of Leeward all the way down to the bay there are no sidewalks currently on those properties. So it is a waiver. The sidewalk ordinance is not located within the zoning ordinance, so it's a waiver request. And Mr. Brzezowski has prepared the building permit plot plan that we've submitted with the application. He's going to testify regarding the site. And I also have Michael Farlakis, who's a member of J&R LLC. I don't plan on having direct questioning for him, but he's certainly available if the board has questions. At this point, I'll call Mr. Brzezowski.
If you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth,
Yes, I do.
and your name and address, Jim.
James Brzezowski, licensed professional engineer and professional planner in the state of New Jersey, and an employee at Horn Tyson and Yoder since 1997. The company's address is 8510 Long Beach Boulevard, Long Beach Township.
And Bonnie, he's testified before.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Brzezowski, we've marked as Exhibit A2 a plot plan bearing your signature. Would you please give an overview for the board of the overall proposed plot plan at the site, which is currently under construction?
Sure. The property is located to the southwest of the intersection of Leeward Avenue and West Avenue. Property has 195 foot of frontage on Leeward Avenue and 160 foot of frontage on West Avenue. We're currently constructing a two-story single-family house with an in-ground swimming pool on the property. In conjunction with the plan that I prepared, we show the proposed sidewalks to be constructed along both West Avenue and Leeward Avenue. The applicant has indicated that they would like to ask for a waiver from the requirement to install the sidewalks along both these streets. In total, this is 355 foot of sidewalk that is being required to be installed. Leeward Avenue leads into the Beach Haven West area of Beach Haven, about 33 houses back there. There's no public park that I'm aware of back in Leeward Avenue, and no no public commercial buildings or activities back there. So the only folks going back on Leeward Avenue are the residents and the visitors to the residents of Leeward Avenue. There are no sidewalks that I can find along with Leeward Avenue. So we're seeking the waiver from the requirement to construct a sidewalk on Leeward Avenue. We don't feel that the lack of a sidewalk poses any safety issue. The Leeward Avenue is fully 60 foot wide paved. And currently the pedestrians walk along the edge of the road. West Avenue, there are also within the vicinity of this property, I think there's one existing property with a sidewalk to the south of this property and on the east side of West Avenue. West Avenue has 60 foot of pavement, which is twice as large as most streets in Beach Haven. So there's adequate room for pedestrians to walk along the shoulder on West Avenue. So we don't feel like it's a safety issue to not provide sidewalks on West Avenue. And therefore we're seeking waivers from the requirement to install the sidewalk.
And on the Leeward side, if sidewalk were in fact installed, I believe the sidewalk would run directly into some landscaping that the neighbor has there. Is that correct?
The adjacent neighbor to the west, just off of the pavement, has a hedgerow.
Okay.
Basically right where the sidewalk would terminate.
Okay.
I have a question. Are there any actual pictures of the front and side, the leeward side and the West Avenue side? To show like the situation there?
No, I do not have any pictures of the house. It's currently under construction, but I did not submit any photographs with the application.
Okay.
I know that Mr. Little referenced an aerial photograph in his review letter, which indicated that that there was,
Frank,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
what's the rule about sidewalks on West Avenue?
Well, the rule in the town is that it requires sidewalk on all frontages.
Okay,
So we don't have many applicants that come before the board to request a waiver, so it's up to the board to make a decision. You know, in the past, primarily, we've really pushed for north-south streets. There are other sidewalks on West Avenue down the line, and you have to start somewhere. So,
right.
you know, that's been the discussion in the past when people have asked the town for waivers. We've told them they've got to come to the land use board and
Right.
to see if
And
the
I know
board
we've had
grants something.
people come in the Webster track and didn't want to put sidewalks in. We made them put in curbs, I think, but not
Right.
sidewalks.
Right,
That's a separate entity from West Avenue.
correct.
So I think for continuity's sake, I think they should be made to put in a sidewalk at least on West Avenue. I think the whole property would look better if they did it all the way around, but if they don't choose to put it on Leeward, that's their choice.
Well,
So
it's,
I
it's,
stopped by there today and I had a
Yeah.
couple quick questions. So
Okay.
right now, when you look at West Avenue and the sidewalks along that road, the borough owns the public right of way, the borough owns more of it. And if I'm adding the dimensions up correctly, it's on West Ave, it's 13 plus a 4-foot proposed sidewalk and 3 foot for the utility strip. So you're talking that's 20 feet to the property line of this property, correct, Frank?
right,
So, but when you look at the sidewalks and where they get placed on West Avenue, there's a bigger utility strip. And I understand that the sketch that's in zoning that, you know, this is a unique situation. West Ave has a bigger public right of way, correct?
that's correct.
So, you know, when I see the proposed 4-foot sidewalk, I mean, I definitely believe you need a sidewalk on West Avenue. So, but I see a 4-foot sidewalk and the 3-foot utility strip, and I don't see that being continuous or, you know, that diagram in the zoning was a diagram, but when you have the public right of way consistent along this whole road, shouldn't the sidewalk and utility strip be a little bit bigger and push the sidewalk back so there's some continuity to the rest of West Avenue? And I realize there aren't sidewalks in this area like they are with the utility strip and the sidewalk further down, but this is really the goal. That's why it's in the zoning.
So this is Scott. I'd like to take a bit of an opposite view to Nicole's statement, in all due respect. I live on West Avenue, and West Avenue is predominantly a pedestrian thoroughfare, not a vehicular thoroughfare. And I can tell you that even up on the part that has sidewalks, nobody uses them. Everybody walks in the street and in the curb. Everybody, bicycles, baby strollers, dog walkers, joggers, you name it. The sidewalks
I
aren't
use them.
used.
I
And
use
given
them.
the fact that all of the north end of the borough is getting these pumping stations for flooding and the south end is not, I say I would like to see the town buy back that hardscape and that the impervious coverage that it will avail itself for that seemingly little bit and help with the water problem. And I think that's more important to we residents who live around there than a little bit of sidewalk that's not being used.
Well, Scott, that's something that you can come to council and make a
Yeah.
recommendation on. That has nothing to do with this application.
I think it does.
Correct. Let's deal with the
Does not.
application here.
On
So,
the-
and then when you look, when you're gonna drive down past the house on Leeward, I never understand that if you do put the sidewalk in, there is a landscape hedge or buffer, but there's also a stone brick, like there's masonry elements there that you're gonna walk into, and that's like, why is the property next to it have those elements? Because now you're gonna put the goal is they put a sidewalk in, and now you're gonna walk into a brick wall. And I took a picture of it. I have it. I just don't. How does stuff
You
get
mean
built?
you mean the hedge, Nicole?
There's a hedge and a brick wall, and I have a picture. I don't know if I'm allowed to share it.
Can she share it, Bob?
Yeah,
You
if you
could probably
well,
call up
you'd have
Google
to-
Maps and look at it.
Yeah,
Google
look
Earth
on
it,
Google
yeah.
Maps. I'm just saying, I went there today, and I don't understand how a hardscape element like that is in the public right of way and then adjoining neighbor, kind of defeating the purpose of the sidewalk.
Well,
Well,
some of
the-
these things were done years ago.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you. It's, you know,
Frank,
mean-
didn't we have on the previous application on West Avenue that you were going to make sure that since it was such a large borough right of way in that area, that the utility strip was going to be wider?
I don't think so. Further down West Avenue, there are areas where the sidewalk is way back off the edge of the road. But if you recall, the prior chief's house was sold. And I believe they just put a sidewalk and curb on the east side in this vicinity, and they did the 3-foot utility strip and the sidewalk.
Right.
Because when you look down in that one piece, and they were the first sidewalk on that side of the street, and you really couldn't push it back any further. So you're right. As you go like up toward Norwood Avenue and some of those areas, the sidewalk is way back, and you know, people's landscaping is way back.
Right. I mean, I would like to see some more continuity of this on
Mhm.
West Avenue. I think a lot of reasons that people do not use the entire sidewalk is because it's not all there. So
Right.
Right.
I see that. But
Well, You have to start
Get
Mishmash.
closer to the yacht club, it is all there. Every
Yeah.
property's got a sidewalk and it's
But
unused.
she's talking, Scott, about all the same size, have it some continuity to the walk. And if we had that with our sidewalks on West Avenue, then perhaps people would get out of the street and walk on the sidewalks.
But as you
That's
go
the
farther
ultimate
north
goal.
towards the yacht club, they all connect. There is continuity and they're still not used.
They're what?
They're not used.
There is content.
They all line up, they connect lot to lot to lot. It's one contiguous sidewalk from east-west street to east-west street. And that hasn't enticed people to use them.
All right, any other?
And as you get farther south,
questions
you've
or
got the
opinions?
isolated property that does have a sidewalks. It's a standalone sidewalk on Run property. It's 50 feet wide. It looks silly. I drove around and looked at it the other day.
Yeah, this is Jim Stevens. I believe the sidewalk should really be on both streets. I think it's ultimately it'll get sidewalks started on Leeward Avenue, and for West Avenue, doesn't matter how wide it is, there should be a sidewalk for pedestrians. Whether they choose to use it or not, that's their business. But from a safety standpoint, I think you need it.
Well, I have to disagree with the safety standpoint, Jim.
You got to start though. You have to start
I know, but
somewhere.
I disagree with the safety feature
Me too.
because I think that cars actually slow down on West Avenue because it is a walkable street.
That's a good point.
I live
I
in
see
the
that.
area and I could give you personal testimony that area, Leeward, there isn't a sidewalk from the end of Leeward on the bay side to the other end of Leeward on the ocean side. If the purpose is to get people to walk on the sidewalks by putting sidewalks on the street, I could see that would be feasible in downtown Beach Haven. But in an area like Leeward and West Ave, that is definitely a walking community. And when cars see people walking in the street, they automatically slow down. I never see anybody speeding on West Avenue because the people themselves slow the traffic down. If sidewalks are going to be meant to be put there for safety, then show me something where there's been some problems. Show me where people have been hit by cars or something. Show me something. But other than that, I have to agree with Scott. I mean, that's the reality of Beach Haven. There's certain areas where sidewalks work. And when I lived on Coral Street, there were sidewalks on both sides and nobody walked on the sidewalks. We had our carts and things and kids would be in the street and people would be in the street all summer long, the busiest time of the year.
And if
And in the
people's
winter
yards
time,
are
you're not
stone,
walking
half the
in
time the
cars.
sidewalk is covered with stones and you can't walk on it
All
anyway.
All right, stop. I
Sidewalks in-
cannot have everybody talking at
I
once.
know, but
One
if you
person
put
at a time.
sidewalks in for a safety issue, it doesn't apply there because there's nothing to, what's the purpose? There's no purpose. I can
So,
see if there
Joe.
were issues, but there are no issues there. So I have to agree with no sidewalk. I wouldn't put sidewalks on Leeward or West Ave. I mean, if I were the owner of that property, if he's there, I don't know. But I have to disagree with everybody and I lean toward what Scott's saying because I live in that area.
Joe, so what you're saying is, for you to believe that a sidewalk is necessary for safety, somebody's got to get hurt first?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm thinking about historically, nobody's
Well,
been hurt.
I mean, you
It's a
can't go by
walkable, street.
historic, I mean,
West Avenue.
well, maybe everybody walks in the street in Beach Haven because there's never been sidewalks.
Well, they
If there'd
walk
been
on the
sidewalks,
sidewalks
maybe
where the
people would have
cars
been
are, in normal
trained.
traffic on Bay Avenue.
Excuse me, let me finish and then you can talk. Maybe if there'd been sidewalks in Beach Haven from day one, people wouldn't be walking in all the streets. But
But they're
people have
not.
started with their mentality to go in the middle of the street everywhere. And we're trying to stop that. It's getting more and more crowded during the summer. You got more kids, you got more bikes, you got more strollers, you got more cars.
Okay, then
Everybody knows
I'll
that.
I'll agree with the sidewalks on West Avenue. If you could put an ordinance mandating that there are sidewalks on both sides of West Avenue done immediately. Rip up everything on West Avenue and drive a sidewalk from one end to the other, north and south on both sides. If you want to put sidewalks in to keep people off the street, then you have to have sidewalks going parallel on both sides, all the way from the club, all the way back down to where the park is. That
Well, I
might
think
work.
that's what we're
Okay.
trying to
I
do,
really
that every
don't.
time a property is bought or sold, that the sidewalk has to go in. That's what we're trying to establish.
but
is
it's not
a continuous
feasible.
Sidewalk.
It's not feasible here. You have sidewalks and then you don't have sidewalks. You have sidewalks and then you don't have sidewalks. You're always pushing the people into the street anyway.
So
So
Joe,
why should they
what
walk on
doesn't,
the sidewalk part-time and then walk on the street in the other time? It's a lot easier to walk in the street on West Avenue because it's one of the widest streets, if not the widest, in the entire town. And it's not in a traffic area. It's a residential area. It's not downtown Beach Haven. I would agree if it were downtown Beach Haven, but it isn't.
Well, we'll agree to disagree. Anybody
Bonnie, may
else
I?
have an opinion?
the reason why it's not feasible in Beach Haven, we're having issues in other parts of the town that we need sidewalks because people are complaining about vehicular versus pedestrian traffic. The reason why it's not feasible is because if you make it mandatory, the town's going to have to pay for it and your taxes will go up. You
So
have to start somewhere.
So Frank, this just goes to the point that maybe someone needs to make a recommendation to council that I think when a property is in exchange and is selling, that the sidewalks have to get, like with a CO, they go and they check, is the railing safe? And the sidewalk needs to be a part of this now.
Right, we used to have an ordinance, I'd have to check back that on, I know on north-south streets, if there was a resale CO, it was a requirement to install sidewalk.
So can we follow up with that? Because I think we've said this 100 times and I think
Yep.
someone needs to make sure that this is happening.
All right, I'll talk to council.
And also, sidewalks are not only for safety, but they do bring an aesthetic value to a neighborhood. Sidewalks make a community looks more like a neighborhood rather than just stones that go into the sewers, clog the drains. they get all over after plowing and this and that. So sidewalks have a more inviting feel to a community. It makes West Avenue look more aesthetically pleasing. This lot used to be all trees, so maybe put up a couple trees versus just all stones and make it more inviting to the community. It has a
Yeah,
more
and-
aesthetic value, like a streetscape on West Avenue. You can disagree with me, that's fine. But
Well, the applicant agreed to the curbs in,
That's
so
subjective.
it's the curbs will be there. And I agree with the curbs, but not with the sidewalks. I think it's ridiculous. There are no sidewalks on any of the properties going all the way down Leeward Avenue, from the bay to the ocean.
well, there will
So
be eventually.
I agree with curbs, but I think sidewalks are totally unnecessary.
This is Michael Farlikis, the owner. Am I
I
allowed to?
didn't swear you in. Mr. Raven, do you want me to swear him in? Do you
Sure.
wanna ask a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, maybe it's a good time to hear from Mr. Farlikis. Go ahead, Mr. Shin.
Okay. Sir, do you, I can't see you. Hang on. Oh, there you are. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
I do.
And your name and address, please.
Michael Farlikis, 615 West 7th Street, Austin, Texas.
Thank you.
I just wanted to comment on the ma'am's ladies on the fact about trees. So I just wanted to assure the council, the board, that we will put curbs in on both the Leeward side and the West Avenue side. And we are going to put trees and landscaping in as we complete the property. So it will be landscaped and it will be curbs. I just wanted to make that point that is part of our original plan. Thank you for letting me speak. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
And Mr. Farlikis, just for the record, the owner of the property is J&R LLC, and you are a member of that LLC, is that correct?
Correct. My wife and I are the only two members.
Okay, thank you.
I'll have a question for you.
Yes.
Why are you against the sidewalk?
Well, I think my opinion is there are no sidewalks, as everybody had kind of said, along West Avenue or along Leeward. Along Leeward, the sidewalk is literally going to run into landscaping. So it's going to be kind of a road to nowhere. And that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Further, it'll also not allow me to landscape as much as I'd like to, because I have to put the utility strip in and then as well sidewalk. So we're going to have to kind of rethink our landscaping plan. Along West Avenue, I kind of agree that, the fact that people walk in the street actually makes people slow down. I've rented in the area and I'm so happy to be part of the community. And part of the allure of the community is actually in that part of town, people walk up and down that West Avenue all the time. And as they do it in the winter, it's happening now. And my opinion, kind of like one of the gentlemen, is that when people walk up and down the street, cars slow down and it's a residential neighborhood. So I don't really see the purpose of it, as you said. And also, there are no other sidewalks anywhere. And so it's not going to be used. It just seems unnecessary. And I think it would look better because I'm going to landscape it effectively, close to the street. So those are the two main points that I would make. And, happy to answer any other questions.
Well, I have a question. Frank, didn't Joan Barron, who is just above this on the other side of Leeward, and she built a new house, and we told her that she had, whoever built the house there, they had to put a sidewalk in. Didn't she put a sidewalk in on West?
I don't remember if she put a sidewalk in. I think there was a condition that if the place next door was built or something, that would trigger a sidewalk on her property.
There was.
There was
There was a
something about the
condition in-
sidewalk.
There was a condition in that approval.
I have friends that live right across the street from this property, and they raised their house a couple years ago, and they were made to put in a sidewalk.
Right.
Yeah, I believe that's the Swishers, if I'm not
No,
mistaken.
the town is trying to get a continuous sidewalk all the way up and down both sides of West Avenue. The reason there's none in the lower part is that part of town has not been developed as much. And it's been neglected for years. And now with the real estate boom, everybody's like yourself, bought 3 lots and built a big house. And a lot of the other houses have been there for a long time and that wasn't required of them. But as those properties change hands, hopefully everybody will have a continuous sidewalk. That's
ma'am,
the goal.
like, I just like to correct the record in that I did not buy lots. The lot was, that was the lot originally deeded. There was no, I did not buy 3 properties. I bought one lot, that
Well,
lot.
one big lot, all right, one big lot, but
but
it was undeveloped, it was all trees and everything, right?
It was a lot that was part of the Webster Lagoon community, and
Right,
it had never been built upon.
right,
And I believe that in the past, they tried to subdivide it, and we did not want to do that. We just wanted to build a house that we thought would be aesthetically pleasing community.
That's fine.
So I just want to correct my record that we did not buy 3 lots. It was always
Okay,
one.
I'm sorry, I misquoted.
No problem.
It seems big enough to be big lot, 3 lots.
Bonnie,
I hope you
Yeah.
like
this
it.
is Tom.
Yes, Tom,
I can't remember what what our decision was for that, the property immediately south of this lot. When they do their changes, they're supposed to do something there as well, correct?
well, they never came back, there was a setback problem with them. Remember with the front porch?
Yes.
Yeah, the
That- but-
stairs.
And I don't.
Well,
do
we've
you remember
done, so
that,
we've
Frank?
done,
The front-
We gave them approval for the,
For the
the
back,
rear.
conditionally.
we didn't give them approval for the front.
no, but we gave them an approval.
And so what we do a lot is we give people conditional approvals pending if any of their neighbors build stuff or update their properties, that then they have to, that'll set forth a chain reaction of sidewalk and curb lines. Leeward has several houses on it that has that.
Right,
And we have to keep in mind, we have to remember this so that the next person down the road says, well, there's nobody on Leeward or nobody on West Avenue that has it. Well, your neighbor has it, hasn't put it in yet.
The problem is somebody's got to trigger this, so the next person puts it in.
Well,
That's
so
the
the
problem.
people before this, the people to his south, they were one of the ones that probably wished for a trigger. And well, now
Well-
that he's there, he
Mhm.
triggered it for them.
Yeah, but the person directly to the south, if that's the one I'm thinking about, that had the rear yard setback issue, but not the
Correct.
front.
yes,
They're
Correct.
required to put sidewalk in. They didn't, I don't think they got a waiver from it.
they didn't.
Correct.
That's correct.
So they're right next to this. I didn't realize that.
Right.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to point out is when you look at aerial maps, the sidewalk on the west side of this street are closer to the curb line than further down on the east side. So there's a lot of sidewalk that have, that may have the 3-foot strip or maybe monolithic to the curb line on the west side of this street. But when you go further down, the bigger homes on the east side, closer to the yacht club and all, those areas, the sidewalk, it looks like it's set back 10 feet off the curb line.
It is.
So I think in this case, if we're going to require it, I would stick with the map as they propose, because I think that's how most of that side of the road already,
Looks.
where there is sidewalk exists that way.
I was
Frank,
just double checking
Don't we
that.
have an ordinance that defines where the sidewalk needs to be placed?
Yeah, it's a 3-foot utility strip
Right.
and then the sidewalk.
And how wide is the requirement of the sidewalk?
The
4 feet?
4-foot sidewalk. So the plan that they presented shows it correctly, but they're asking for a waiver. And it's up to the board on how you want to move forward with it.
Well, if there are no other comments from the board, I'd like to open it to the public and see if they have any comments about this. Anybody? Can I have a motion to open it to the public?
I
Motion,
make a-
Tom.
Oh,
Second, Scott.
Sorry, Nicole.
All right, is there anybody in the public that would like to speak to this application? In the sidewalks? Anybody, Lauren?
I'm scrolling through now. I do not see anybody. Nope.
Nope,
Either.
nope. Well, that was quick. All right,
Motion to close.
thank you. Can I have a second?
Second, Scott.
All right, so we're back to square one. Any more comments on this before I make a motion?
My only comment is thank you for allowing me to come and present this to you. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming.
Hey, Frank, I got a question, Tom.
Yes.
I know in certain parts of the town is the utility strip does it change widths depending on the size of the setback?
Not because of the setback, but we do have areas in town where the curb and sidewalk are monolithic. And if somebody comes in the middle, we're working with people because a lot of times you can't put the sidewalk back. It'll be behind the other sidewalk. So every one of these cases is a little different, but we do try to make sure, moving forward, that we get at least 4 foot of clearance around utility poles. So that if there is a monolithic pour, we're trying to get that width when it's available.
Understood.
Any more questions? All right, can I have a motion to approve or disapprove of this application?
Bonnie, just if somebody's gonna make a motion, it actually
Yeah.
should be a couple of different parts. Either to say no entirely, yes to both, or we want one sidewalk on one piece of property, just so it's clear what everybody's
Okay.
voting on.
So can I have a motion to leave it like it is and have a sidewalk on both sides? Or can I have a motion to have a sidewalk on one side, which is West Avenue? Or can I have a motion for no sidewalks?
I make a motion for no sidewalks. Scott?
I'll second it.
Okay. Mrs. Baxter,
No.
Mr. Meadow,
No.
Mrs. Baumiller,
No.
Mr. Stevens,
No.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes, I approve.
Mrs. Eddles,
No.
Mr. Haransky,
No.
Mrs. Leonard,
No.
and
So
Mr.
the
Tinquist.
application
Did I say
has
no to my
been,
own motion? I meant yes.
Yes, yeah, you did.
Sorry, I didn't mean
yes,
that.
you did, Scott.
I mean, no, I don't want sidewalks.
I was gonna say, I counted up and I got 7-1, so,
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So the motion for no sidewalks has been defeated. Is there a motion for a sidewalk just on West? Or is there a motion for sidewalks on both West and Leeward?
I make a motion for, sidewalks on West and Leeward.
I'll
Can I
second
have-
that, Penny.
Mrs. Baxter,
Yes.
Mr. Meadow,
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
No.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mr. Haransky,
No.
Mrs. Leonard,
Yes.
Mr. Tinquist.
Yes.
Right, so the application has been approved to have sidewalks on both sides.
Thank you.
Actually, the waiver has been denied.
Yeah.
Right.
There you
Be
go.
careful how we
go.
say this.
So Frank,
You're right. We
Waiver has been
approved
denied.
sidewalks on both sides, but the waiver request has been denied.
Right.
so Frank,
Sounds good.
in this case, I know it's a little bit late to ask this, but on his leeward side where it does abut up to the neighbor that has a cement column that
Right.
sticks up and is landscaping, we're gonna give him some leeward to move his sidewalk accordingly, so it doesn't end up that some kid riding down the bike is on his
I guess
bicycle
I'd have
runs
to look
into-
at that to see if we have to turn the end of it so it doesn't run into that, but,
Yeah.
and that would just be a minor adjustment on the tail end of it.
Okay,
But the plan doesn't show that feature, so we would have to see it to make any minor adjustment at that end.
Right, but
I'm
Oh,
Or
gonna-
require the owner to
But the-
remove the wall in the right of way.
I think the wall is on the neighboring property.
But if it's in the
Isn't
right
it
of
in the
way,
right of way?
that neighbor
Yeah.
should remove it.
I don't know how that works right now, but I'd have to, that's not
You know
part of
what?
this.
I'll tell you how it
application.
probably works, Frank. It probably works because it's in the Webster track.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, that's not part of what we just reviewed.
Right.
Correct.
So I'll look at it for the end of the sidewalk, but other than that,
Not your problem, right?
it's not an issue where we can mandate this applicant to knock their wall down.
Okay. Moving right along to application 2022-04, 405 Amber Street. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing home and subdivide the property into 2 single-family lots. The applicant is seeking variance for lot width, having proposed 40 feet for each lot where 50 is required. In addition, the applicant is seeking a variance for lot area, having proposed 4,398 square feet for each lot where 5,000 is required.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson, members of the board. Richard Visotsky with the law firm of Kelly and Visotsky, appearing on behalf of the applicant 405 Amber LLC. Madam Chairperson, you wish to have the documents submitted first?
Yeah,
Yes.
Rich, let me mark these
Yeah,
ahead of time.
let- Bob, do you?
Sure. Rich, your letter of February 11th with the application will be A1. Leon Tiska's survey is dated January 14th, 22. That's going to be A2. And speaking of which, I didn't see Leon in the lineup here.
No, he's not going to be on the call.
Okay. A3 is Michael Pagnotta, architect plans, February 2nd. It's 2 pages. The first is grounds, first, second, and floor plans, and the second page is elevations. A4 is your notices, everything's in order. And Frank's review letter of February 24th will be B1. So
I
you just
also-
mentioned them.
Yeah, I also had 2 photographs that I submitted.
I put them in with the application, but we'll mark
Okay.
them as A5 and A5 collectively. Just tell us which one you're talking about when you.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
My client is 405 Amber LLC. They're the contract purchaser for the property at 405 Amber Street. Michael Pagnotta is the sole owner of the LLC. He's the contract purchaser for this property. It's block 131, lot 22. Right now, the entire track is at 80 foot wide by 109.95 feet deep for a total of 8,796 square feet. What we're looking to do is to demolish the existing older house that's on the property now. And that property is actually owned by Margaret Bories. She purchased the property in 1965, so I would assume that the house there has to be at least 57 years old. We plan on taking that down and putting up 2 new single-family homes that would meet all the zoning requirements of the Borough of Beach Haven, but for the lot area and the lot width. So we're going to be 602 square feet short on each of the 2 lots. We have here tonight Jim Brzezowski, who's going to be our professional planner, and he'll address Mr. Tiska's minor subdivision application. We also have Michael Pagnotta, the applicant, who's also be acting as the architect. So if I may have Mr. Brzezowski sworn first, please.
Record. There you are. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and your name and address, please, for the record.
James Brzezowski, I'm a licensed professional engineer and professional planner in the state of New Jersey, and an employee at Horn Tyson and Yoder since 1997, whose office address is 8510 Long Beach Boulevard, Long Beach Township, New Jersey.
And Bonnie, he's testified here before.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so Mr. Brzezowski's testimony is going to be as a professional planner. He did not do the engineering work on his plan. Mr. Brzezowski, are you familiar with the minor subdivision that was prepared by Mr. Tiska's office that's been marked into evidence as applicant exhibit A2?
Yes, I am.
All right, could you please describe to the board where this property is located, what's around it, and then we'll get into the nature of the application.
The property is located on the north side of Amber Street, 50 foot to the west of Delaware Avenue. The property has 80 foot of frontage on Amber Street, 109.95 feet of depth. So the existing property has an area of 8,796 square feet. It's currently developed with an existing single-family house. And the property is surrounded by other single-family houses and duplexes on properties that have 45, 50-foot widths. Immediately to the west of this property are 4 properties with 45-foot widths, and across the street from this property are 4 or 5 lots with 50-foot widths. And we're looking to subdivide this property and create 2 lots that are 40 feet wide by 109.95 feet deep, for lot areas of 4,398 square feet. The property is located in the RB two-family residential district, which would permit a duplex to be constructed on a property that has 60 foot of width and 6,000 square foot. So as the property currently is, there's a potential to construct a duplex on this property. We don't think that the size of either a duplex or a single family house on an 80-foot and almost 9,000 square foot lot, it's going to fit into the character of the neighborhood, where most lots are either 50 foot or less. So we're proposing to subdivide this property and construct 2 smaller single family homes. The advantage of the smaller single family homes on this property, once it's subdivided, is that we're not going to have the massive width that could potentially be constructed on a single lot. The side yard setbacks in the RV district are required to be combined 16 foot. So on an 80-foot frontage, that leaves a potential 64-foot wide house. Whereas subdividing the property, we're going to, the maximum width of each house on these lots would be 24 foot. So the combination is 48 foot, which is 16 foot less than could be constructed on if the property were to remain whole, which is going to benefit the community in that we're going to be providing more light, air, and open space between and around the property. We see this as an advantage, that and the fact that the smaller houses are going to, we feel, fit better with the surrounding properties.
And Mr. Brzezowski, I know you mentioned the lot widths on both sides of the street, but on our side of the street, on the north side of Amber, those lots are deeper than the ones on the south side. Is that correct? By about 10 feet?
Yes.
So in reality, even though the other lots may be around the same size, these lots are about 10 foot deeper, just all the way down on our side of the street. Is that correct? The north side of Amber?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. And could you address the parking, Mr. Brzezowski?
Yeah, we're proposing to construct, as I mentioned, 2 single family homes. We're going to be able to park 2 cars outside the footprint of the proposed homes. And then there's room in garages for up to 2 additional cars to park. So there's potential space on each lot for 4 off-street parking spaces.
Okay. And yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, in the borough's ordinance, it requires 2 parking spaces outside the footprint of the building. So we're complying with the ordinance, and then we're providing a couple bonus parking spaces that aren't outside the footprint of the building.
Okay. And I'll have Mr. Pagnotta address that though, but as far as you're aware, the air conditioning units will be on the roof. Is that correct? So it would.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yes.
Okay.
But each of these buildings are less than the 35% required, or maximum permitted. The lot coverage for each of these proposed lots is 31.2%, where 35% is the maximum. So we're not maximizing the size of these homes on these properties as proposed.
And can we put up one of the photographs, please? Okay, Mr. Brzezowski, is this the house that constitutes the 405 Amber Street?
Yeah, that's the existing house on the property. Yes.
Let me just get another angle of it. Could you put up the other photograph, please?
Sure thing.
It's the same one. Well, this probably shows the depth and the existing house a little better. Is that right, Mr. Brzezowski?
Yeah, you can, this photograph isn't as obscured by the bushes as the first photograph. This is the same. We're looking at the house from Amber Street.
Okay, and I see with that photograph, Mr. Brzezowski, there's no sidewalks there now, but the proposal will have curbs and sidewalks, correct?
Yes, it will. Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Brzezowski, you're familiar with the zoning plan and zoning ordinances of the Borough of Beach Haven? Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And you feel that the granting of the variances in conjunction with the minor subdivision application will in any way impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan or zoning ordinance?
No, I do not. This property is zoned as RV, two-family residential. So we're not really increasing the density. A duplex could be constructed on this property. In the RV district, single-family homes are permitted to be constructed on lots that are 40 feet in width and 4,000 square feet. However, with a new subdivision, 50 feet is required and 5,000 square foot area is required. But this does fit in with the ordinance requirement for a single-family home. So I feel that this is not a detriment.
And you feel it could be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, is that correct?
That is correct. Again, I reiterate that the two smaller single-family homes is going to provide more light, air, and open space than what could potentially be constructed on this site.
All right, and do you know if the existing house there now is below base flood elevation?
It appears to be. I don't know for a fact, but it appears to be about 3 feet above the ground. The ground is at about elevation 3, so that puts the first floor at about 6.
Okay, and so obviously the two new homes will comply with the base flood elevation requirements, correct?
Yes, the effective base flood is 9, and the preliminary maps have the base flood at 8. So the new house will be the new homes will be constructed with first floors at elevation 10, unless the new maps are adopted.
Okay. All right, I believe we covered everything else there. Anything else on Mr. Little's letter or anything else, Frank, that you wish Mr. Brzezowski to address?
Yeah, I just looked on my comment on the curb and sidewalk. I mean, these are a single car garage door, so you get a 12-foot curb cut, but you're gonna try to, I'm assuming, set it up so you can pull 2 cars on site, correct? And be outside of the building footprint. I'm just concerned about the width of the driveway and then making sure you can get both cars in there outside the vertical plane of the building. Any comment on that from either the architect or Mr. Brzezowski?
Yeah, we can provide a 12-foot curb cut and an 18-foot parking area outside the footprint, even if it requires that the building be pushed back, a couple.
So you can center the 12-foot driveway so that you can pull both cars in and park them side by side. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. Which
Okay,
is only a swing of 3 foot each way.
that's fine. All right, that answers my question. That was the only one I had.
Okay.
So you can push, what you're saying is you'll push the houses back if this gets approved, you push them back 3 feet, is that my understanding?
No.
Okay.
No, what we're saying is we can provide a 12-foot curb cut. And then the parking areas will be centered on that 12-foot curb cut. So we're gonna have a car is gonna have to swing 3 foot to one side and the other car would have to swing 3 foot to the other side to park. And if that was a problem, in design, we could then move the building back. But at the end of the day, we're going to provide a 12-foot curb cut and 2 off-street parking spaces outside the footprint of the building.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
I'm looking at the plot plan right now. I'm just looking for what the sheet number was. The Amber survey, what you're calling Amber survey in the PDF. And I see that you put the outside showers on the rear back of the house. But when I look at the ground floor plan on sheet A1, I see the mechanical on the side of the house with the outside shower, and the elevations show that too. Where there, you guys were saying that you're putting the rooftop equipment on top of the roof, yet they're shown on the ground floor plan, but they're not shown on the survey.
There's a note on the survey just to the lower right that says that the ACs are going to be located on the roof.
All right, but the elevations and the ground floor plan showed them on the ground and the
Right.
shower at a different location than indicated.
Well, they'll have to revise the drawings as a condition of any approval because we're not approving them
Okay, I
other
would
than
just-
what's on the plan.
You know, and I'm just making sure
Yeah.
either they're here because
Okay.
they're not consistent across
it.
the architecturals.
All right.
All right, there were any other questions of Mr. Brzezowski before we move on to Mr. Pagnotta?
I had a question about the other lots across the street, like 404 Amber, 406 Amber, 408 Amber. What size are those lots?
They're roughly they've exactly 50-foot frontage and a little bit more than 100 foot in depth. So they're 100.45 foot in depth. They're just over 5,000 square feet.
Okay.
But you do have a couple of 40, you have some 40 foots also by 100 on that same side. Is that right?
Yeah, as you go west, there's a couple 40 footers.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 40 foot, 40 by 100.45 foot lots, which would be just over 4,000 square feet. So it's a mixed bag.
And what's the reason for the builder proposing 2 houses instead of 1?
Because the builder could construct a duplex on this property and ultimately get the same thing. But
So why isn't he building according to what it's zoned? What's the reason for coming to us?
the reason is we feel that this is a better plan for this neighborhood because the size of the surrounding properties aren't 80 foot in width. They're 50 foot, 45 foot in width. So a house or either a duplex or a single family home with that has a width of the building itself of 64 feet or in that ballpark. I mean, it may not exactly be 64 feet, but it could be up to 64 feet, won't fit in with the rest of the neighborhood where the house is going to be bigger, wider than the lots themselves. So we feel this is a better plan for this particular neighborhood to build 2 smaller single family homes than 1 massive either duplex or single family home.
And you testified that was for light air and open space also, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Brzezowski? If not, I'd like to call Michael Pagnotta, please.
I saw Michael Pagnotta earlier. He was muted. Hang on.
There he is.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and your name and address, please.
Yeah, Michael Pagnotta. I'm an architect. I've been working in Ship Bottom as a licensed architect since 1988. My office has been in the same location on Causeway since 1990.
Bonnie, have you testified before this board before, Mr. Pagnotta?
Yes,
Bonnie, you want to
yes.
just accept them or you want to have them qualify?
yes.
Okay, he's accepted.
Mr. Pagnotta, you're the applicant and sole owner of 405 Amber LLC?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And you are currently the contract purchaser for this property, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. You've heard Mr. Brzezowski's testimony, correct?
Yes.
All right. Could you please now describe to the board how the the aesthetics of the two new houses? And if we could go over your architectural plans, please.
Yeah, the homes, I think the homes are fairly modest. They're 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. They're a little less than 2,200 square feet. I think they can be 2,190 or something like that square feet as far as your floor area ratio would go. The homes are designed to be less than the 35% allowable coverage, leaving some room, some breathing room. I think the key to the project is to create 2 smaller homes on the large property as opposed to the one, single duplex, to promote the light and air, to get 16 feet less construction, or 16 feet less, actual building than had we decided to do a duplex. I think the homes will be similar in aesthetics to the homes that we're doing a little bit further west on Amber. They were also 80-foot subdivisions with 40-foot lots. And you can kind of get an idea what the homes would look like in context, right, through those examples that are actually being built. I think that they represent a good solution to the neighborhood in Beach Haven in that area. Some of the things that were important, I think, to the project are parking, providing more parking than is actually required. I think we're going to have at least four parking spots per house, which I think that's important, especially in that area. And I think we're going to be, I think aesthetically we're going to be contributing to the neighborhood. I think it's going to be something that will sit very comfortably within the context of the neighborhood. The materials will be low maintenance materials. There will be reverse living homes with roof decks, elevators, ample storage, and deck space. The homes will be similar in nature. I have a plan. I'd like to show you a rendering of one of them if you don't mind. Can I screen share something? There you go. So, oops. There you go. So that
What
would be.
exhibit would you like me to pull up for you?
Can you get that?
No.
No,
Yeah.
is it A1, A2?
I only have it if you wanted to see it.
Just put up a picture of one of his houses.
Yeah, you have it disabled, so I can't do it. Okay. Yeah, that's not it. But I mean, I have a 3D, but I'm sorry, but it would be similar in nature to the ones down the street, as far as the massing of the structures and the use of materials.
So Mr. Pagnotta, you also designed the houses down the street on the 40-foot lots?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And what you were trying to show is a color rendering of one of the houses, or?
Yeah.
Right, but is it similar to the architectural plans, which we could maybe go to the next page on the architectural? You can see one of the elevations of it. Yeah.
Yeah, the next page. Yeah, go to the next one.
Is it scrolling through the pages, or are you just seeing the same page?
Another one more.
No, we're going to show what the elevations there.
There we go. Okay, so we're going to use, some of the materials that are common and I think comfortable in Beach Haven. We're going to be using a brick base, cultured brick base, and cedar impressions for the front elevation. The windows we Anderson 400 series. Scroll down, please. There we go. One, and then there we go, to the right. So, and then a little bit to the right. There you go. So that's the general feel for them. We've been they'll be consistent with the other homes on the street.
And Mr. Pagnotta, let's clear up where the AC or mechanicals will be. Mr. Tiska has it on the a notation that's going to be on the roof.
Yeah, we have, that's fine. We can do the condensers on the roof. I think that would be the least intrusive location for everybody. And then the showers, we have the shower shown in the architecturals is under the house. And then on the plot plan, they're in the rear of the house. It doesn't matter to me. I prefer them to be outside the perimeter of the home just for more, again, more air. But I'm okay either way with that.
Anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Pagnotta?
No, I think they're a good solution. I think I'm trying to create something that would be good for Beach Haven and good for the neighborhood. I think this is the appropriate solution for that lot. I'm trying to not overbuild. It's actually, over 300 feet less than we could have built in coverage alone had we done a duplex.
All right. Madam Chairperson, that'll conclude the testimony of Mr. Pagnotta.
I just have one question. Is that a two-car garage I'm looking at?
It is front to back.
Oh,
Yeah.
not width-wise, not side by side.
It's close. I wouldn't let my wife drive 2 cars in there, but that's just her.
Okay. All right, no, I have no more questions. If nobody else has any questions, or I'll open it to the public. Anybody else have any questions?
Can I ask about the building height on the proposed project?
You most certainly may.
So I know that we talked about the building height on your previous project down the street. I think when the lot size gets narrow to the 40 feet, I think proportionally, I wouldn't want to see this at 35 feet.
Yeah, I mean, we dropped 6 inches before, and we could do 6 inches. What I chose to do on this one, Nicole, and I'm okay either way, honestly, but I think we're going to be more sensitive to height going forward as we move into a situation where we're trying to raise the grades and trying to meet these height requirements, right? So I'm okay if we're going to drop it 6 inches. We've tried to address containing the size of these homes through the use of the coverage in this case, right? So we made it a little bit smaller as far as the footprint goes. If you'd like us to reduce the height by 6 inches, that's fine. I'm just saying, just in general, I can see us all trying to push to the very last inch in order to get the grade raised and get the homes higher. But I'll leave it to the board, whatever you'd like. If you want us to drop 6 inches, be happy to do that.
I'm not talking about 6 inches. I don't think you're actually going to feel on the street. Didn't you have to bring it down to 32 on the?
No,
that was
only
6
6 inches.
And then, do these 2 houses, when you look at 40-foot lots, just with the character of the town, the 40-foot lots usually have a 2-story house on it, not a rooftop deck. It doesn't have 4 bedrooms. This is a lot on the 2 properties.
Yeah, I think, remember, we're talking about a building type for 2022 now, right? So this is very, very common now. If you look at the housing stock all throughout, Beach Haven on a 40-foot lot, this will be the new building type, right? And in 30 years, when you look back, this will be the iconic building type of RH, right? When you look on a pedestrian scale, this home is going to step back. It's not 35 feet right through the vertical plane on the street. It steps back through the use of these decks for, actually the height is going to be recessed. So it's not only 18 feet, but it's another 10 feet back, et cetera, before we get to the max height. So we're consciously trying to step the homes back visually, so we don't have like a 35-foot wall, facing the street on a pedestrian level.
Right, and I only ask this just because zoning doesn't allow the 2 houses. So it's just, how can these 2 houses get scaled down? I personally, I don't love the duplex side by side, what you're allowed to build, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's just.
Yeah, that's not a good solution, I don't think, but,
Any other comments?
I have a comment or question for Mr.
Okay,
Schmidt.
Jamie. Go ahead.
Bob, when this is the 3rd subdivision on this street, and our ordinance says that new subdivision should be 5,000 square feet, and this is the 3rd one within a year. So I'm just kind of a little bit kind of confused. It's when do you just keep passing subdivisions, or when do you ask council to either change the ordinance because this is the 3rd one within a year? Now I know every case is is different. The first one, the first subdivision on Amber, they were each 4,791 square feet. So they were just shy of the 5,000 square feet. The second subdivision, they were friends and they didn't want a duplex. So that was kind of, easy. And we did have some restrictions on that. But now this one is pretty short of the 5,000 square feet where they're, 4,398 square feet. So I guess I'm just having a hard time to, how many subdivisions do you pass before you ask for the ordinance to be changed?
There's no rhyme or reason to that, Jamie. So, I mean, there isn't. There's no hard, fast answer. And I mean, logically, if this is going to be a continuing problem, it's something the mayor and council should look at. But you look at the alternative, would you rather have a duplex that's conforming that might be a very large structure, or two smaller houses and two smaller lots? And if this is becoming a pattern, you're right, this is the third one we've had recently. So maybe it is an idea to go back to mayor and council as a proposal and say maybe the lot size instead of 50 and 5,000 should be reduced.
But I think ultimately the reason for that, and Frank, you can chime in on this, was to, limit the density, to have not kind of like these cookie cutter houses being put on smaller lot size when you want them to be, at least 5,000 square feet.
That's correct. I mean, basically, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the council turn around now because of these
Right.
three subdivisions and all of a sudden change it that we're going to allow 40 by 100-foot lots. Because when you do that, somebody's going to come in with a 3,700 square foot lot.
Right. So I guess
So-
I guess my concern is like I'm just having a hard time with this subdivision because it's not close to the 5,000 square feet as the first one was.
And every one of these stands on its own. Their testimony as it fits in the neighborhood, you might not feel that way based on the lot size, and the board has a right to deny the application if they see fit. But
And you
each one
can-
of these cases stands on its own, so you might get, this one might not make it and the others did. And you have a right to further restrict height and things that Nicole mentioned in order to feel more comfortable about granting a subdivision like this.
Yeah, I think something that Nicole said is we're faced with either a duplex on this lot, which we may not like, or a subdivision. And I think that's part of the dilemma here.
Well, they need variances for this subdivision, so it's up to the board, to make that decision based on what you're hearing from the applicant.
And as part of your rationale, if you decide to approve this tonight, keep in mind they're going below the 35% that they're allowed to build on. So you might want to put a condition in there that there'll be no further additions or attachments to the structures. And that's
Can
something
they address Nicole's comment on lowering the height to make it not such a large structure?
We could, what we could do is if we could do the roof to 32 and let the railings go to 35, so that we could do something like that where we, where the actual structure to you, or to you, right, to the pedestrian, right, would see a 32-foot house, but allow us to have the railings extend up, not past your height limit, but at least we won't have the roof going to 35. We could have the roof going to 32 and allow the railings to extend beyond that. I think that would be a fair compromise.
I mean, I don't know how the board feels right now, but the HVAC are up top on the roof. What's the difference between it being up there or in between the two?
In that case, we would probably want to put them on the side of the structure on the setback.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put them, I don't think that they should be allowed on either side of adjoining properties. I think that let the two houses share the noise together in between them.
I don't like that idea. I wouldn't like to live in a house and listen to air conditioners can be very, very noisy.
Yeah, our wide setbacks from the outside, that would seem to be the best location. But I'll defer to the board on that, but we would prefer them to be on the wide side if we're going to take them off the roof.
And then the wide garage door, like when you look at the scale and proportion of the front elevation, that door is a wide door. Like when you look at the height,
It's 14 feet wide. So a
Yeah,
typical two-car garage would be 16, right? Or 20. So it's a little bigger than a single car garage, which would be, 10.
but why is it bigger than a single car garage? Because you're trying to make the scale of this, not. Why is it so wide?
Just be accommodating. I mean, it could be less. It could be 12. That would still work. We have reasons for all of the decisions, and some of them are aesthetic, some of them, just personal choice. But that could go to 12. That wouldn't affect any, that wouldn't hurt anything.
All right. If no one else has any more comments, why don't I open this to the public and see if there's anybody in the neighborhood that has any comments? Can I have a motion to open to the public, please?
I so move. I'll second, Penny.
Penny and Tom. Okay, is there anybody out there that has a comment on this application, this subdivision? Quiet tonight. None?
I don't see anybody.
Yeah, I don't see anybody.
No? Okie dokie. Can I have a motion to close it to the public, please?
So moved, Penny.
Second, Jamie.
All right, any last comments on this before we?
I have one more comment. If we're just real quick, if we're going
Okay.
to be, if we're going to be adjusting heights, that prefer not to go less than 33 feet. I'm just looking at how this house is and how any house would be. I know I said 32. I would not want to go less than 33. That's all.
Okay. Do you have any problems with changing the garage door?
Not at all.
Okay.
So that would be 33 feet with the rooftop rail going to 35? Is that what you're indicating?
Not, we don't have any houses like that in Beach Haven. That's
I
a
know.
town, that's a township. I mean, is this because everyone has to have a rooftop deck now? You're surrounded by all these like little capes that, like I've said this many times that I'm not a fan of rooftop decks. I think they're invasive. But that's mainly because the people around me have them and they can see right in my windows. So, I mean, you're asking for the subdivision. I think that you can eliminate the rooftop deck.
You can ask for that, for sure.
But where, I'm still confused then. I thought the air conditioner was going on the deck. No? We're now putting it on between the two houses? What are we doing?
Yeah, I think on the outside walls.
On the outside wall, not in the 12 feet that separate these two houses. Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And why it could go in the rear of the house?
Yeah, the rear of the house.
Yeah, I mean, it really should be in the rear of the house.
Rear is fine. That's fine.
I mean, if you have elimination of the rooftop deck, then you can add more pitch to your roof and it wouldn't be such a flattened box-like structure. Besides, the front has a nice pitch, and then we're continuously having these flat top roofs for people to have these rooftop decks, which no one really even sits on them anyway. It's like sunset, goodbye. So why not on a small lot that we're subdividing, add a little bit more character to the community by giving these roof pitch, lower the height, you get the two houses and everybody's happy, including the surrounding community around them.
Yes.
I'm okay with that. If we want to eliminate the rooftop deck, I want to look at the height again. I don't want to do a shallow pitch where it's going to look kind of lame.
Right.
And I'm not trying to push. I just think aesthetically, even if we have 34 with no roof deck, I'm better with that. So at least it looks like something. I don't.
And what's your ceiling? What are your finished ceiling heights on both floors?
We have 9 on the mid level, right? That's where we have to stop at everything. And then the upper level is 8 plus the whatever the vault is going to be.
So
That's
you have
why
nine
these
foot,
houses
you have
get so
9 foot
high.
finished, you have 9 foot ceilings in the first floor?
You need that. We need that for the air conditioning. You have to have that. And anything in 2022, you have 9 feet on that level.
What did they used to do when we made you build at 32 feet? Just curious.
Different world, man. Different world. All the
Different world?
requirements, everything's different.
Yeah. So where are we height wise now? Anybody know? Are we going at 33 feet or?
I'd rather be 34 just for the aesthetics, but I'll tend to you guys. I
30
think it look better. We don't need height inside, okay? We're
So
gonna
you're
have
looking
height
at 34 foot with a pitched roof and no rooftop
deck.
deck.
No roof deck.
And
They'll be
Nicole,
pitches.
a 12-foot garage door?
So the 34 is at the peak, but then the house is going to be pitched from there, right?
Yeah, everything pitches.
Correct, everything pitches. Yep.
We're gonna see-
12-foot garage door, condensers in the rear. No roof deck.
Where's the shower? Is that gonna stay in the rear?
That's what's on the plot plan.
I'd rather have that on the side, but you know. We're gonna start crowding out the rear with the condensers and the shower, but
With the condensers on top of the shower.
heck, we can do that too. We put them in the rear, that's fine. We'll put it on the
Put
rear.
the shower on the side and have the setback, can you?
Now, put the shower in the rear with the AC and everything's in the
Right.
rear.
We'll do
Yes.
that. We'll do that. That's fine.
And then for the garage doors, what was the width you guys wanted to
I
talk
think
about?
12, right?
Well,
What's the standard? I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but when you look at the house in proportion of a scale of what is the width of the doors usually?
A garage door?
Yeah.
Garage door? It depends. That's kind of a car and a half in width. It could be 16 feet, right? The one we're showing is 14. A single car.
But traditionally, Mike,
Oh, like a single car, if you had a 2-car garage, it'd be between 8 and 10 each.
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like when you see those door scales,
Yeah,
it looks nicer, I think.
yeah,
It's they're either 9 or 10 feet for a single
Yeah.
car garage.
yeah. Yeah, so, I think 12 would be good.
I
Can
don't
we,
know. I don't know how the board feels. I was just trying to scale the house down a little bit, and I think those wide doors always look odd on the front.
can we also clarify that we'll have the side setbacks at 11 feet facing the adjacent neighbors and the 5 foot in between each other? For the side setbacks?
What's wrong with 6 between?
5, it has a total of 16, so you
Right,
have,
I understand that, and they were putting 6 on each side, right? So there'd be 12 feet between each house, correct, in the
12.
middle?
yes.
Well,
So it's 6 and 6, 12, and then on
six
the
and six or
outsides,
5.
they show 6. I
Yeah,
saw.
they're showing 6. We're approving it per the plan submitted.
Okay,
So it's 6 and 6 and 10 and 10 on the outside.
okay. Frank, is there a drainage plan on here? Just because, again, the surrounding community is all
I mean,
over.
typically they have to do recharge trenches and drainage. If he's going to make any adjustments to grade, when he comes for a plot plan, he'll have to show that to the building department.
Okay, thank you.
Frank, I have a quick question. Can a builder come in on any lot and put any amount of dirt on it and raise the height of the land?
They could do that, but the height's measured from the center of the road. So as you raise the grade, your ceiling heights and everything
Okay,
start coming
Alright.
down. So
okay,
in other towns where fill is required, they measure the height from the face of the structure at the level of the fill.
okay,
So we don't have that ordinance in Beach Haven right now.
okay.
Like they measure the height from the center of the midpoint of the property?
Well, they measure it at the front
Street.
face of the building, typically at the top of the garage slab. That's how, I think Surf City, Ship Bottom, and I think Harvey Cedars measures.
Yeah, but
it.
how do we do it in Beach Haven? It's the
We measure
midpoint,
everything from the center of the road.
but
From
the
the-
midpoint of
raise-
if the property is 50 feet wide, you do it at 25 feet?
Yeah, you do it at the center of the property.
Okay,
At the center
The
line of the
midpoint
road.
of the road.
Right.
Okay, any other questions, comments? So we have a 34-foot house, 6 feet, 12 feet between the two of them. We have the AC in the shower in the back.
No
I'm still-
rooftop. No rooftop deck.
Yeah, no rooftop deck.
I think that was it.
What's about the garage door? I don't have a problem with the garage
I
door,
don't-
but
I don't have
I
a
don't
problem with
really
the
have
garage
a
door either.
strong feeling one
That's
way or
fine.
the other on the door.
That's fine.
Okay,
Just what's aesthetically pleasing.
right.
Okay, I gotta put it in the resolution. So we back to 12 feet or are we back to the 14 or what are we doing?
I'd leave it like it is, but
I'd go for the smaller.
you want smaller?
Yeah, it's just from the streetscape standpoint. I mean, you're looking at a front that's a big garage door.
So
Let's
Jim-
go with the
They
12.
make pretty garage doors, but doesn't matter. I don't know.
So you want Jim, you want a 12-foot door?
Whatever. I prefer smaller.
Well, pick
I
a
just
number.
think sometimes in the
12
door
good.
looks
For the
so tiny
resolution.
to the big
12 foot's
house.
good.
Let's go with 12, Bob.
It's
Okay,
in
Nicole?
between the 10 and the 14, so do the 12.
There
Do
you
the
go.
12.
All right? Otherwise, we'll be
Right.
here all night.
Will somebody please make a motion to approve?
I'll make a
this?
motion what you said.
And I second. Oh,
No deck, 34 feet high, 12-foot garage, air conditioning and shower in the back.
10-foot sides setbacks.
And
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Were
that's
you
a total.
limiting future lot coverage?
Well, the
That
lot
was my
coverage is per the
suggestion.
plan. The lot
Okay.
coverage is per the plan.
Okay.
well,
At
no,
So that means no pool.
31.2%.
that's it. It's done there.
That's what it's
Yeah.
on. That's what it says.
Okay.
No pool. Okay, can I have a motion? Or can we vote? Do we have a motion and a second?
I seconded it, Nicole Baxter.
Yep, I have Tom as the first and Nicole as the second. So I'm going to go through.
Perfect.
All right, Ms. Baxter,
Yes.
Mr. Meadow,
Yes.
Mrs. Ballmiller,
Yes, and I just wanted to just comment to Mr. Pagnotta. I think that you have a real unique opportunity here to make this really, aesthetically pleasing. This is a changing street, and I want everyone to look at these houses with these pitches on the roof and want one just for their own. So, good luck.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mr. Herensky,
No,
Mrs. Lenhard,
Yes.
Mr. Tinquist,
Yes.
application approved.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for your time and consideration. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Rich.
All right, does anybody have anything else that they want to discuss before we adjourn?
The sidewalks.
Oh, God, we'll be here all night.
No. It's a quick one. I
Okay.
think I appreciate that Frank understood and if Frank could just help push this along with council and Sherry. I think when a property goes up for sale and exchanges hands, that if there's a sidewalk left and right, they have to put a sidewalk in. I think that would help.
Nicole, there
more than-
used to be that rule. I don't know
But
what.
there isn't, it's not in place now, so. and
Well,
we
how
keep
do we get
talking
rid of it?
about-
Well, it's not even if there's a sidewalk on either side. They have to put it in.
Right.
Yeah, they have to put it in. I think we should have something like that.
All right,
North, south, east, west, or just north, south?
everywhere.
Well,
That's
I'm going to make a
important.
comment. I can remember when Doc Sensendiver sold his property on Beach Avenue between
Yeah.
Belvoir and Chatsworth. They were required, this was way back,
Yeah.
to put in a sidewalk in. So I don't
Right.
understand what happened to that. Where did that go?
That's a county
I
road.
don't know, but used to be north-south streets, Beach, Atlantic, I think those
Mm-hmm.
streets, Bay Avenue, all needed sidewalk if you, even on a
Right.
resale.
Well, can we just revisit this and find out if is it still in existence?
Number one. Number two, or who's implementing it and enforcing it?
We'll check
Because
into it.
because everyone's getting mad at us about sidewalks and
No, I'll talk to, Jamie's
Frank?
hearing this too, so we'll
Frank?
look into it. All right?
Yeah.
Joe,
We keep talking about the sidewalks, but let's be clear that the curb is probably most important for plowing and to keep those stones from going into the drainage. So
That's
if
true.
anything, let's at least mandate that there always be curbs and sidewalks, whatever the town wants to do. But I think we're not mentioning curbs at all. I think that's important.
well, I think it's a curb and sidewalk ordinance,
it's the
Joe. It's a combination.
Okay.
and then
Okay.
we're the utility strip. I really do think it needs to be something that drains, not I don't think it's a continuous curb.
Right,
I think you really want to introduce that because it's a utility strip.
right.
And that's it.
Yeah, so go back to the council, Frank.
I will.
Thank
Part
you,
of the
Frank.
council's on this meeting, so I'm
All right,
sure,
can I have a
Bye.
motion? Hey, we're early tonight. It's only 7:40. This
Yeah,
is a
let's
good
go.
night. Everybody can still
Motion,
go home and have a
Tom.
decent dinner.
Yep.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Tom.
Second,
Second.
thank you. Good night,
Bye.
all.
Good night.
Hey.
Stay well.